Hey guys, welcome to the very first episode of the Neat Movie News Show, our weekly show where we're going to break down all the latest in the world of movie news over the past week. And today I'm joined by what will mostly be the regular panel. You may see some new faces here and there. But on my right, here's Doug and Robert over here.
Hey guys.
So we're going to have some things you can follow us down here on the sidebar down below, exactly our topics that we're going to be going through. Our first area, we're simply going to look at the big news stories over the week. Doug, what's up first?
Well, our first story is producer Simon Kinberg said the new Wolverine movie will be rated R. He also stated that the movie takes place in a future and it's kind of like a Western in its tone. Wolverine 3 is slated to hit theaters in 2017. Dean, thoughts on a rated R Wolverine and its Western tone?
The Western tone confuses me because I'm not entirely sure, although it is from director James Mangold, who directed The Wolverine just a couple years ago. And he also directed the Western 3:10 to Yuma with Christian Bale and Russell Crowe, which I like that movie a lot. But I'm not really sure what the Western tone has to do with Wolverine overall. But I think the R rating works, not because I think a lot of people are going, oh, because Deadpool worked, they're just going to make Wolverine an R rated movie. And I think that is part of it, but it fits for Wolverine. He is an extremely violent character. I think this movie is basically going to be rated R for violence and language. That's going to be my guess. Wolverine's always been the one to kind of drop the one F-bomb allowed in X-Men movies. So I think this makes sense to me. Robert, what do you think about it?
For the Western part, I'm thinking that, cause like a general Western hero, he kind of rolls into town, he
That's a good point.
helps out a damsel in distress, and then he leaves. And then it's kind of just like an in and out kind of job.
Right, that's your basic Western plot right there.
So maybe he's just like wandering around, runs into a girl. I mean, I think that happens a lot actually in those kind of movies.
Westerns, that's always what happens.
Yeah. So.
I just think it'd be really cool if it's even if it's just not even like a high noon type of situation, but if he's wearing a cool hat, all pinned down and whatnot, and then just instead of drawing, just draws out the blades, be pretty sweet.
And
Big fan of that.
I know the big rumor is that it's going to be Old Man Logan, and the future thing that Kinberg said kind of points to that. But obviously, from what I understand, I have not read the comic, but from what I understand, there's like the Hulk's in it, Hawkeye's in it, which so they obviously they can't be in these movies. So I imagine it's going to be loosely based off of it, and it's basically going to be the fact that Wolverine's older. We even saw that in Days of Future Past, out in the future scenes, he was graying and whatever. But what does confuse me is that the rumor's always been that Professor X with Patrick Stewart would be in it. So is he still alive in the future, or how far in the future is it? I guess we'll find out when we're going forward.
Going off of the Old Man Logan, from what I can tell, or what heard someone say about it, is that it's when Wolverine becomes like a pacifist and doesn't want to kill. So at some point, I'm assuming if Professor X is in it, he's gonna be like, "Hey Wolverine, we need you to kill people," and just be, "No, I don't do that anymore." And then he's gonna kill. If it's rated R, it's like, what, Wolverine's not just dismembering people? And I think that's what Deadpool laid the ground, like, hey, people like rated R superhero movies. We'll just have Wolverine kill a ton of people.
Well, it definitely worked, but wasn't the Wolverine just a couple years ago? Wasn't he like not killing at a point? Wasn't he like living in the woods no long? Maybe he was still killing. Maybe he was just taking a break from being.
I mean, he
Wolverine,
stabbed that dude's hand for using toxic arrow on a bear.
I just thought like he was coming back at that point, but I guess we'll find out probably pretty soon, the next year or so. All right, what's up next?
Well, Ben Affleck has been made executive producer on Justice League. Deadline is reporting Ben Affleck has the next installment of DC. Okay, we're just gonna try that one again. Just read the same line twice. Deadline is reporting Ben Affleck has been made an executive producer on Justice League, the next installment in the DC movie universe, hitting theaters November 17th, 2017. Affleck is also set to co-star in the film. Robert, do you think this will impact the movie at all?
As him being an executive producer?
Yeah.
Correct. Man, we're all just stumbling on some words right now. Gee whiz.
I honestly don't know. He might just want to be an executive producer because he's in the movie. He wants to have more input. But as a whole,
I mean, I think that's a pretty good point, though, because obviously I think he was pretty upset. There's that sad Affleck meme going around. So, I mean, he's probably pretty upset with the results, so I'm sure he wants to be more hands-on with things.
Even if he's not more hands-on, to what you were saying before the show about how Steven Spielberg just put on, like, everything, just like, hey, Steven Spielberg, if I see Ben Affleck just, like, helping with the movie, and I, for anything, like, wow, big fan of that guy.
Right.
Might have to go see this now.
Well,
sure. Yeah.
And
For sure.
And the thing was, you heard about Batman v Superman was that Affleck was one of the reasons he wrote most of his scenes with screenwriter Chris Terrio that involved Batman, and I think most of us agree that Batman was probably the best part of the movie. overall, especially his dialogue compared to some of the weird dialogue. So I think that's a good sign. And like they were mentioning, because they had kind of questions like, what exactly is an executive producer? It can mean so many things. Like he was saying, Steven Spielberg, basically movie companies will pay him so they can then slap his name on there to give it some credibility. But the fact that Affleck's going to be on set already, because he obviously is Batman, I think this lends well because he's going to have some more creative control, some more say in exactly what happens. And also be there to help out with Zack Snyder, who's obviously a great visual director, but his story's lacking, and Affleck's proven he handles story well in movies like Gone Baby Gone, The Town, and Argo, which you won Best Picture for. So I think this leads well for Justice League, although I guess it just depends on how involved he'll really be.
If there's even a 1% chance that he helps improve this movie, we have to take this as an absolute certainty.
All right. Good quote. All right, next.
Earlier this week, it was announced that the sequel to 2014's Godzilla was delayed to June 8th, 2018. From June 8th, 2018 to March 22nd. And today we learned that director Gareth Edwards has left the project. What do you make of this new release date and Edwards leaving? Dean?
All right, well, the pushback didn't surprise me too much because I thought maybe what they were doing is they were giving Edwards some more time to finish up Star Wars Rogue One, which, he's probably finished for, like, the shooting, but I'm sure they're heavily in post-production as it comes out in December. So I thought maybe they were trying to buy him time because they've been pushing this movie around, trying to make sure he was able to direct it. So when he pulled out of it, it kind of surprised me. And I believe the report claimed that he was stepping aside because he wanted to focus on some smaller movies and take a break, which I can't blame him. He went straight from the first Godzilla to Star Wars Rogue One, two massive movies. I'm sure he's pretty exhausted and just wanted to maybe get to some of his original work. I'm sure he had a lot of say on these stories and he had a lot of fun, but I'm sure he would like to get to some smaller scale things where he can tell exactly the story he wants to tell. And I'm just curious as to now this release date, maybe they knew this and they were pushing it back, so it gave him time to find a new director. That's just me speculating, but maybe that's the case.
I'm going to say for the smaller project, too, well, this is going back to Godzilla, which I was a big fan of, even though Godzilla wasn't it very much. And I'm almost wondering if he's going to do the same thing for Star Wars. Almost put Darth Vader in there. Maybe he's only going to be there in 20 minutes, but that actually makes sense because it's not a Darth Vader movie. But I digress.
Well, I'd be excited about that because what he did with Godzilla when he was in the movie was great. So if we can get that kind of stuff out of Darth Vader in that short amount of time, I'd love that.
And I'm not too nervous about this. Just I guess depends on who gets put in the project instead. So I'm not going to make any judgment on it until, like, say, see any trailers or if the project just falls apart in the news. But so far, there's don't think any reason to worry. Robert?
Yeah, it's all good stuff. Yeah.
Did you like the first Godzilla?
I did like the first Godzilla. I had no idea that Godzilla could breathe fire or blue fire.
Really? Where have you been?
I had no idea.
Really weird that the two love interest in the movie are brother and sister in real life. It's a bit weird.
They're not. They played brother and sister in Avengers. They are two completely separate people. I don't know what you're talking about.
I could have swore they were real brother and sister in real life, and then they'd play a married couple, and that's just a little incestuous.
All right, and staying in the same series or franchise too, there's a quick other little piece of news as well.
Oh, Godzilla vs. King Kong is set for May 29th, 2020. How excited are you guys for this movie?
I think King Kong's gonna win.
Really?
He has a lot more maneuverability.
See, I'm excited.
He's an ape that can't breathe fire, Robert.
Dude, all King Kong has to do is get him in a headlock.
Well, that's my
snap his jaw like the T-Rex is.
See, that's my big question though. It's because I like that they're giving us a firm release date. It's a summer movie right at the end of May. But what I'm most curious about is this is separate from Peter Jackson's King Kong back in 2005 or whatever. But this newest Godzilla is massive.
Yeah.
So
I just thought about that.
How big is King Kong gonna be, or how different in size? Okay. That's my biggest concern. Doug, do you think that they will stay enemies, or do you see this kind of as like a team up thing where eventually they have to like fight something bigger, or do you think it will be strictly them fighting?
I think it's gonna have to be a team up because I don't think they're gonna want to like kill off one of them in the first of, unless it's like already the climax of this
right, and I'm
big
curious
animal.
what it is.
But if they do team up, you know how sweet it would be for like King Kong charging and then like Godzilla like grabs him and like chucks him and then he just freaking goes ape crap on some alien's face. I'm excited for this movie. It just sounds so dumb but so great.
Oh, that's exactly. It just sounds
so
like I just want to see them fight.
great.
I don't care exactly what.
Just some giant monsters beating on other giant monsters.
He's fighting over the girl.
Oh man.
The 5'10" blonde.
Yeah.
Jeez, Godzilla.
All right, and let's move on to our next story.
All right, we have a casting update on Marvel's Black Panther. Lupita Nyong'o is now in talks to star in the film, and breaking today, Creed star Michael B. Jordan joined the cast. This will be his third movie with director Ryan Coogler. Rumors say Jordan could be playing a villain to Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther. What do you make of these casting choices, Dean?
Well, I think they're fantastic. I mean, both of the actors are extremely talented. They're some of the biggest names out there. And the one that really interests me is Michael B. Jordan, because I saw this one kind of come out of nowhere. He's always kind of been a leading man, more or less, or a really main guy. So I'm curious to see him take, not a backseat per se, but a little bit of a step behind of Chadwick Boseman, who we obviously know as Black Panther. We saw him in Civil War. And I think the villain part's really interesting, because we haven't really seen him play a villain yet. And I'm hoping this means he's one villain, because in Avengers Age of Ultron, we saw Andy Serkis play Claw, who's a Black Panther villain. And I really want to see Andy Serkis back in these movies and playing these roles. So I hope he's in the movie as well, and maybe he's working with Jordan, or maybe they're rival bad guys or something. I think the casting's great. I'm just curious to see who exactly they're playing.
I'm really excited for just Michael B. Jordan getting back in the superhero world, because obviously Fantastic Four is going nowhere, but he was actually good in that movie. So I'm excited for him to get actually into a promising Marvel franchise. And yeah, for the villain, I could see him being a temporary villain and going back, but it'd be kind of neat if he ended up being like maybe like the main baddie in the movie, just to see something completely different. 'Cause, I mean, yeah, he hasn't played something
And him
evil
being
yet.
a villain is just a rumor, so he could turn out being a good guy. We don't know, but that was what the report said.
Does Black Panther have sidekicks?
I don't know much
Could it
about
be
him. To
could it be
honest.
the Cub? I don't know.
I was gonna say, is he like the Black Jaguar or what?
Ooh.
No, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I'm really looking forward to this
Congrats on that statement, Robert.
movie. Especially because Ryan Coogler, because with Fruitvale Station and then most recently with Creed, the guy knows how to direct a great movie with some strong characters.
And some great fight scenes. I mean, for
No, exactly.
boxing.
His fight scenes, especially just the way he took like that one-shot boxing scene was great. So I'm really looking forward to see what he can do with the superhero genre and those sort of fight scenes.
Where is the Black Panther from? Like Africa, but like
Yeah, Wakanda, which is like
jungle.
it's an African country, but it's like a fictional, like
Okay.
kind of like Gotham. It's kind of like
It's a fictional,
Marvel
yeah.
fictional city.
So would
Country, Dean.
so would Jordan be from the same country? You think?
I'd imagine.
Probably like make it be even just a rival
Like
Wakanda
tribal,
power.
or
Because I
like
mean,
Rwanda and the. Dang it!
I don't know,
I might
because-
miss
I mean,
Black
I could see
Panther is a
it.
king. So
Yeah,
I
it could be
mean,
somebody who thinks the monarchy
Dethrone him.
is dethroned, like a rabble
who
rouser.
knows? We don't really know much about the plot, so I guess we'll learn more going forward.
Or
But so
maybe
far,
since
big
his dad
fan.
Died, Black Panther's dad died.
Right.
So then maybe it's his little brother. Who knows?
It could
Ooh,
be. It could be
little
anything. At
little
this point.
coup attempt.
Little sibling rivalry. All right, what's next?
All right, Ridley Scott will direct the movie adaptation of S. Craig Zahler's. There's an H and an L in there, and who knows what's going on. Western novel Wraiths of the Broken Land. Ridley will begin joining forces with Martian writer Drew Goddard. Wraiths of the Broken Land is a brutal and unflinching tale about two kidnapped sisters who are forced into prostitution. The story is described as a savage western that combines horror, noir, and Asian ultra-violence. This really intrigues me. I'm a big fan of this because, A, The Martian was great, and a horror noir Asian ultra-violence in the West is just like, all right, throw all this together and give me a bag of popcorn. I'm excited.
So, yeah, I'm a fan of noirs. I'm a really big fan of westerns. I understand what they mean by Asian ultraviolence, but I've never seen a ton of movies with that, so that's kind of interesting to me. And I think the weird thing is here, so many people were off of Ridley Scott because he had not made a good movie in so long. Suddenly he makes The Martian and everybody's ready to see everything. I mean, he's a great director. I mean, he made so many great movies. And I like Prometheus. I think you like Prometheus too, didn't you?
I got scared.
It's kind of a creepy movie. But so I think that's good. But what really excites me is the fact that Drew Goddard is writing this, because I think the problem Ridley Scott had run into is he was directing all of his own movies where he was coming up with the ideas. He wasn't necessarily writing the script, but they're his ideas and he had full creative control. And I think the fact that Goddard's writing this lends well because he adapted The Martian so well. That screenplay in that movie is fantastic. And he also worked on at least season 1 of Daredevil on Netflix. So I think that's a big plus. This guy really knows how to write. So with his writing and then Ridley Scott's directing, I think this movie's got a lot of potential. And I think the story sounds pretty interesting as well.
Say without a trailer, I can't say it's gonna be net, but just the premise just sounds real neat.
Wait, Wait, did you guys know who the main actor is yet?
They haven't announced casting, I don't believe.
I mean, it's gonna be two females who look somewhat similar. Well, they don't have to look similar. They kind of make them look similar,
Right.
but
Whether it be Asian though? 'Cause
no, just Asian ultraviolence is part of it. That's just
Yeah,
that's just a genre.
I don't actually know what time period or where it's set, to be honest. I
It
don't know
said.
that.
What
I'm
is
assuming West-
Asian ultraviolet? What is that?
I guess I don't know how to describe it. It's normally I guess I don't know how to describe it. I
Is
feel like
Asian
I just
ultraviolence
picture
because
it
you
when I
almost
see
just do something if like in Kill Bill. I know it's not technically eight, but yeah, it's like when she fights the crazy 88.
I think it's like overly kind of bloody,
Over the top.
gory, yeah, over the top, kind of unrealistic in a sense.
So kind of like Jackie Chan, kind of kung fu.
I'd imagine that's kind of what I picture in my head, but I could be completely
Who would you
wrong.
guys like to see play any of these sisters?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, obviously it's got to be an actress that can hold their own with like.
I'm assuming
stunts
I'm
and
pretty
stuff.
sure pretty young too, because they're forcing prostitution. I don't know if
Right,
like
yeah.
whoever played in Hateful Eight, I doubt she's gonna be picked as one of the sisters.
No, yeah, Jennifer Jason Leigh.
I guess I don't know
They're
they're twins. It's just they're sisters. One could be decently older and one could be really young. I don't know.
Yeah, so you don't
Dakota
know.
Fanning, maybe.
She could.
Care to elaborate on who she is?
She's a blonde girl, and
I'm just trying to think of.
Arya Stark, whoever her real name is.
I doubt she'll be in it.
I know Ridley Scott normally has his go-to people it seems, but he has mixed it up with like The Martian. He worked with some new people, so I guess it's. I don't know. I mean, the go-to's always like Emily Blunt, but I don't know if
She might be a little too old for this. Not saying she's old.
Put the actor
She might be too busy.
just have whoever's Arya Stark's real actress name and just slap a wig on the Hound. Put them, say it's a woman, and just have them go kick some butt.
Maybe a shave.
Yeah, big fan of that. All right.
It's our next story.
All right, You Were Never Really Here. It's a new movie based on the book. It's going to star Joaquin Phoenix as an ex-Marine and FBI agent who has suffered a lot of trauma in his life. He keeps himself isolated from the outside world and makes a living rescuing women from the sex trade. When a high-ranking politician hires him to rescue his daughter from a brothel, he uncovers a vast network of corruption. Dean, does this interest you?
You know what does? Joaquin Phoenix isn't a guy. I mean, he's one of the most talented actors out there, but he normally does these really small movies, which just kind of sounds like a smaller movie. But it doesn't sound like the usual role for him, so that's one thing I'm interested in. And then it sounds like a pretty cool kind of story. Seems like you get into some real underground kind of cool stuff here, and it sounds kind of like a pretty violent, kind of hard-hitting thing. And the first thing that popped in my mind when I heard this description was kind of The Punisher, and then Robert had said the exact same thing when we were going over this earlier today. So it's kind of got that vibe going to it, and I think that actually lends pretty well for it.
And for people who don't know, The Punisher is a comic book.
We know who the Punisher is, Robert.
If you have not watched Daredevil Season 2, you should probably do that, and you'll get a good idea of who the Punisher is.
He's a guy who's ex-Marine who kills bad guys.
Very, very brutally, to say the least.
And this sounds, a lot like that, and maybe this will be the Punisher movie adaptation we've always been looking for. Always
That's
been
true.
looking
How long
for.
ago?
I don't know, whenever the first Punisher movie came out.
What's interesting is, I haven't seen all his movies, but Joaquin Phoenix normally plays these kind of like toned down, lean back, kind of soft spoken kind of guys. So I'm curious to see him kind of get into this like real kind of traumatized, maybe suffering some PTSD kind of like. Seems like he's gonna be some kind of angry, dark person. So I'm curious to see him really dive into that.
Do you know any movies off the top of your head that he was in?
All I'm coming up with right now is Her. That's like the only thing that's coming up top of my head.
The guy, the main actor in that
Yeah,
one?
that's him.
Whoa, weird.
Which obviously
was
very
really weird.
Neat.
Yeah, obviously very.
No, just the
different
fact that he's
movies.
going from that to a guy who's just gonna be murdering.
Right.
pimps.
That's kind of why it's like
I
not
thought
his
that
usual
movie was
role.
really weird. I thought this movie was really weird when I was watching it.
I can see that.
I couldn't finish it. I was too weirded out.
Couldn't finish, Robert? Aw, jeez.
I was gonna say-
Ah,
I was
the
gonna
phone.
I was gonna say a comment, but I can't say anymore if you just made that joke. Because I was watching with a family relative.
Oh,
Gross.
All right, next.
All right, next story is Captain Dad, Will Ferrell's next comedy. The film will see Ferrell as a wealthy family man who decides to take his wife, or for his wife's birthday, to take a vacation sailing through the Caribbean with his grown children and their partners. Shenanigans ensue because Ferrell's character is overconfident in sailing abilities as he is in the midst of a midlife crisis. Michael Cera is playing a boyfriend of one of the daughters. Dean, being the ultra Will Ferrell fan you are, does this movie pique your fancy?
Yeah, see, he says that because I've never been the biggest Will Ferrell fan. To me, he plays the same character over and over. I'll enjoy or I'll laugh at parts here and there in his movies. But this movie actually has me interested because to me it seems like he's not going to be the main focus of just like telling jokes and being over the top crazy. To me, it seems like he's just gonna be kind of this like off his rocker kind of dad a little bit, and the situations he gets him in, kind of like the vacation movies is kind of what they reference this. So kind of where the dad in those, he's funny, but he's not like trying to tell jokes. It's just what he's doing and then how the people around him react. So that's why I think this movie actually interests me. And Michael Cera is such a weird, awkward guy, but he's such like a funny actor at the same time. That combination, kind of them playing off each other, especially the fact that Farrell will be the dad and Sarah will be like the boyfriend of his daughter. It just seems like a kind of a cool, weird dynamic that this actually kind of has me interested.
So this is now Will Ferrell's third movie in a row of being kind of a white, rich dad kind of guy. First he had Get Hard, then Stepdad, now this. That's just really the role he's going for. White suburban dad.
Found his niche.
Found his niche.
No, I'm actually kind of thinking that Michael Cera might be like kind of like a douchebag in this movie.
You know, I could kind of see that. It
It's
could
like,
go so many ways.
maybe
yeah.
like a preppy dude. I don't know.
I could see it. He could be kind of like, I don't know, the boyfriend that thinks he's better than the dad, or like he's like, you know, like pushing him along, or I don't know. This
Oh, like
could
a
go
big
so
suck
many
up, pretty
ways.
much, trying to like suck up to.
He could be sucking up, or he could be the guy.
If he plays a douchebag, that'd
be.
be really funny because he is.
He's
Yeah.
like, his voice is so soft.
Soft.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Just
he's
trying to
so
be hard.
frail.
You-
Sorry, Michael Cera.
You mentioned Vacation, so I wonder if it's gonna be more of a slapstick kind of comedy like Vacation.
I'd imagine.
Yeah.
And that actually, I think, goes well. And I'm also curious, though, whether this will be like a hard R movie or PG-13. Because I think if it goes too hard R, just to do kind of like gross out humor, it won't work. But I think like the situational sort of humor will.
It's most likely gonna be PG-13, I'd say.
It would make sense.
See,
It
I'm
would
a big
sell
fan
it
of like
too.
Will Ferrell with and the other guys because that was a lot of just situational humor. And
Right, yeah.
Big fan of that movie.
Alright, so that wraps up our main stories of this week's movie news, and we'll move on to our brief segment, which I'm simply calling News Flash, which is where we'll go down.
Ooh, nude splash.
We'll go down to some a little bit of the smaller stories throughout the week. We've just got two here today. Doug was the first one.
All right, Wonder Woman wraps up production and the movie opens June 2nd, 2017. I am very tentatively excited about this movie because I'm a big fan of like that medieval kind of style, but if it ends up being just an overdone CGI fest like Batman v Superman, it's just all CGI kind of medieval stuff. I feel it's just weird. But I was a big fan of Wonder Woman in the film, so I just don't know if she can actually hold a movie on herself, like on her shoulders.
When does the movie take place?
World War I is supposed to be the majority of it.
But like the Amazons themselves are
Oh,
like
very
medieval
yes.
kind of
I was
stuff.
about to ask, do you know what medieval means?
Well,
But-
and I think the reason to your point of the CGI, it does not because I've at least there's a lot of
There's set pictures
set
and stuff.
pictures going
Yeah.
on, and there's a lot of like real life sets, props, and all that. With the occasional green screen, I'm sure to kind
Yeah.
of build out the scenery of the
Around.
Amazonian Paradise Island or whatever to really build the like environment. So I don't think there'll be like crazy CGI.
But there could be a really cool scene in that if there's
Ties
like
into Saving Private Ryan? That'd be pretty tight.
well, it's World War II.
oh Robert, come on. No, but if it's I think it's a cool juxtaposition between the Amazons and like World War One, especially if you see like Amazon warriors charging for like from a trench line and trying to take another trench. That could just be a really
Well,
cool
and I
scene
don't
of them
know-
just
I don't know if it's gonna be. I think it's just Wonder Woman though.
Yeah.
I think
were
it's-
there other Amazons in
there
one of the
are,
set
but
pictures?
I think they're in.
It's focusing pretty much on her.
Well, I think they're gonna be in the movie, but they're not gonna be taking
Place
part
Place
in the war. Yeah, I think it's
feel
just
like
her.
America and the world would kind of realize the
That-
superheroes.
very
they just have
true, yeah.
8 women
Yeah,
charging
one
you.
woman kind of can become a myth and a legend, but 80 of them be like, yeah, we know they exist.
Yeah, but either way, if she leads a charge into another trench, that
And I think that's another cool
Could
thing is
be
because I did really like her in Batman v Superman. She's one of the standouts. But to see her kind of like sword and hand-to-hand combat going up against like World War One weaponry, machine guns, and that sort of thing, that's gonna be interesting to see.
Is that why she died in Fast and Furious 6 to do these movies?
spoiler alert, Robert.
That movie, okay, Fast and Furious 8 is coming out in like in a year.
I say something tells me
Yeah.
I've heard she doesn't have a major role in it. So I don't think
Statute
it's
of
right.
limitations.
It could be. Maybe they just decided to go. I guess I don't have the answer for you on that one. All right, and what's our next one? Last one.
Simply stated here as Jared Leto's Joker laugh. Dean, how about you break this down for
All right,
us?
this
Real
just
fresh.
kind of made me laugh when I read it. Is Jared Leto was talking about how he
Ha,
developed
laugh. He laughs.
how he made or came up with his laugh or his take on the Joker, and I thought it was just funny because we've heard so much about his method acting, and he's kind of an interesting, kind of eccentric guy. And basically, what he said was, as he would walk
He's just a
around New
weirdo,
York,
is what he is.
as he walked around New York for a couple days, he would just try out these new laughs and basically see which one turned the most heads or got the most attention for him. So I just kind of laugh imagining him walking down the streets just giving out these maniacal laughs. And what he said is when he finally settled on one, when he was really getting close, he went to like a fancy restaurant in New York and just tried it out. And apparently, like the whole restaurant, I believe, like just turned and looked at him. Because if you go back and listen to that trailer and listen to his laugh, can you imagine just sitting in a restaurant? Suddenly, some random guy.
But the real question was he eating with someone or is he just at his table by himself and all of a sudden just, just, you good, sir?
No, just imagine him walking around like 11 o'clock at night,
Right.
and this group of people just emerge, and he walks up behind him and just starts laughing,
Right.
or he's walking towards him and starts laughing like that. That'd be so scary.
That's the creepiest thing. That's why I wanted to talk about this because I thought it was just a funny, weird thing, and just kind of I love the laugh he's got going too with it. So just imagine like just some random guy just busting that out. It's just kind of got to be.
Did he walk into the restaurant and just laugh? Then laugh?
Or just middle of his meal just starts laughing.
I feel like middle of his meal turns heads. You walk into the restaurant and start doing that, you probably get arrested. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Something seems like it'd go a little differently.
Oh, jeez. Great stuff.
All right, and that wraps up our news flash segment. And I see there was a lot of big trailers. I'm sure you guys are wondering, well, what are you guys going to talk about? Assassin's Creed or the Accountant trailer, anything like that?
Oh, we're going to talk about all
So
of
we're
them.
getting to our next segment, simply called Trailer Talk. We're going to break down the 4 trailers that all came out this week, all of which I was a big fan of. Doug, what's the first trailer we're talking about?
Inferno, the third movie in the Da Vinci Code franchise. Director Ron Howard returns with Tom Hanks and Felicity Jones joins the crew. Dean, what'd you think? What'd you like? What'd you dislike? And are you excited?
I thought the trailer was pretty good. It doesn't give you a ton, just teases you a little bit. And I'm also a big fan of the series, especially.
Oh, big fan.
Well, the Da Vinci Code I love, and then Angels and Demons, every time I watch it, I actually like it more. I'm a big fan of like mystery thrillers where you're trying to put these pieces together. And I love the way these movies specifically have taken real life events and kind of turned them into things almost to the point where you're like, oh, that almost seems like kind of believable. And I like the way they do that. And I think the thing that really stands out for me this movie is it feels like the Da Vinci Code more than Angels and Demons, which while I like both movies, I think it lends well that it'd be like the Da Vinci Code. There's a scene in the trailer where he shows it's Dante's Inferno, and it immediately reminded me almost visually and just the way he said it and everything about the scene in Da Vinci Code where he's with Ian McKellen and they're kind of going over the story of Jesus and the Last Supper and all that. So I'm really excited for this movie because I like the series so much, and this felt like a good continuation of the series.
I would say it felt more in plot lines to Angels and Demons just because in Angels and Demons is going to be a bomb that's going to blow up the Vatican.
That's
This
true.
is now a virus that like going to either kill half of mankind is what the trailer stated. I read the Da Vinci Code book, and then after watching that, and Meeks also hadn't seen Da Vinci Code in a long time, the movie really didn't hold up for me, but Angels and Demons does, I find it a lot better than Da Vinci Code. Even after finishing the book, it's still good book adaptation. So I'm really excited for Inferno because they're just really neat movies. Yeah, like I said, you get putting all the pieces together and just fantastic.
Have you seen both Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons?
I know I've seen Angel and Demons. Is that the one where they like take
Obi-Wan Kenobi?
all the?
Yeah, Ewan McGregor's in it. Yes.
What about the ones with the popes? They.
That's Angels and
Yeah,
Demons.
that's Angels and Demons.
Okay, I've seen that one for sure.
What, did you like the trailer overall? Did you just like something? Oh, maybe I want to see that. Or?
I'm definitely intrigued to see it because I mean I really enjoyed Angels and Demons, and yeah.
My one gripe with it though is the fact that it's like I haven't read the book, but it's the one guy talking, and he's saying like this is gonna be your biggest test yet. It seems weird that some guy is like now testing Robert Langdon because now it's like, oh, you're the titular hero compared to the other ones. It's just like people need their help for a second, and then just kind of just keeps snowballing into like what's going on. He's just in the middle of it. It's not like someone initially called him out like, hey, you're gonna solve this. And like Da Vinci Code, they called him there because they thought he was actually the murderer. And then in Angels and Demons, that was again, they just called him up because they needed somebody who knew like the expertise on the Illuminati. This one's like a guy specifically calling him out to, like wants to solve his challenge. I guess if you heard about Robert Langdon, you're like, ooh, I want to test this guy, but
I think
it seems a little weird
to me. It makes sense because he's probably gotten a name for himself. He's solved 2 giant things. He's probably got some attention and stuff. So I'm sure there's somebody that's out there that's like, I'm better than this guy. Probably got fed up with him. It's like, oh, I'm gonna challenge him or something.
To like who's the biggest history buff out there?
I don't know about this, but like I feel like this one might be a little too action packed. Not like, geez, Doug.
Sorry.
Action packed as in like Tom Hanks looks like he's doing a bit more active things
That's
in
true.
the movie. Where I'm like, well,
Well, this guy's just a history
he's
professor.
just a history professor, and like he's getting
Or
hit by
art-
water,
art
going over
history.
a railing. If
There's
that
a lot
is
of
him,
falling.
Yeah,
And a lot. Well, there's
and
also
I'm
that big
like,
blood wall thing, that like
Yeah.
big wave of
Yeah.
blood.
I mean,
It might be a little.
Now
Yeah.
I'm right to like the Moses turning the river red, or whatever. Was that Moses?
Moses
Was turning the
Yeah.
river red?
What was during that whole thing?
Or
Yeah.
was it Joseph?
Let's not dive into the Bible. All right,
My
and
parents would not be proud right now.
all right, in our next trailer.
The Assassin's Creed trailer. Michael Fassbender stars with Marion Cotillard along with director Justin Kurzel, who all worked on Mythbeth together. Robert, you have played the Assassin's Creed games.
Great stuff.
Are you excited for this? How big fan? How was the trailer? What'd you think about it?
Oh sure.
Oh, sure.
It was. I really liked the trailer. They took a little bit different path on the what's that thing you go to?
Animus.
Animus, yes. And they made it more like kind of like it feels like when he goes into the past, his body is still moving like it does. Like when he's like making the moves he does in the past.
Oh, that's probably why they went to crane instead of like
Yeah.
bed from
Yeah.
the games.
You know, it looks a little bit like the Matrix too, which I thought was kind of.
Yeah, you kind of
Funny.
did. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking really forward to it, and I want to know what he lands in. Is it a hay
Hay bale.
bale?
Yeah, that's that
or-
last
Hay
shot.
bales?
He dives in, and you're like,
What
is
is
he
he
really
landing
gonna,
in?
is he really gonna do this? And then Michael Fassbender came out and said that there's none of the like the falling into the hay and you're perfectly safe. So I'm curious, is that shot not in the trailer or
Maybe he just
or
kills
not in the
himself. That's the
movie?
end of the movie. Just stands and
Yeah,
just kills
like,
himself.
I don't know. I
I
guess.
mean, if you do that underwater and you just back smack, oh, that would hurt so bad.
All right, Doug, what you also played the games, right?
I've played a few. I've played most of 1, beat 2, and then 4. But yeah,
You
I'm
played Brotherhood?
beat half of that one, and then stopped because it's pretty much the same thing as Assassin's Creed 2. But everything but the music. I thought the music of putting like a weird rap song really
was not
didn't
right.
fit at all. But big fan of Michael Fassbender. The action looks intense, and as long as they keep the future story stuff to make it like a little bit interesting, but not like go crazy with it, like what they started going to the games. Like I don't care about this. I just want to go back in time and see these guys murder people.
I kind of like the music.
Well, Robert, your opinions are wrong, so I'm sorry. I mean, the music was. I just didn't feel like it fit the trailer.
It was kind of a weird choice.
Well, it said something about them being gods.
It did, I mean, it kind of fit, but I don't know. It just didn't fit the tone or like where they were at in the movie.
Yeah, what I think the time period is, it might be in the middle of Assassin's Creed 2, obviously in Spain, not Italy. But I'm looking.
I believe they came out and said there's no game storyline at all. It's a
I
brand
feel like it's a brand new character, but I'm
everything.
just one. Well, they're obviously gonna put Easter eggs to the
Oh,
game,
sure they will.
so they might mention whatever the guy who ended up becoming Pope was, who like left during the second game, or maybe Nicole mentioned Ezio, just like a quick mention or just a something. But yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, and as someone, I've seen like bits and pieces of like these two playing. I've never played the game, but I'm really excited this movie. I mean, I would have been interested if it was just an Assassin's Creed movie, but as soon as you throw Michael Fassbender in there, immediately I wanted to see this movie. And I think this is going to be the movie that shows you what video game movies that they can work. For whatever reason, Warcraft seems like it's maybe because it's like the general audience has like the stereotype of like the 40-year-old guy in his parents' basement playing Warcraft all day.
Aw, Cam.
Which obviously isn't like a true thing. It's just a stereotype. But I feel like because of that, and it's a fantasy movie, that it may not do as well financially. But this one, they're obviously really confident with a December, like a Christmas release date. And I don't know, the action looked visceral. It looked like a cool storyline, and it had a lot of sci-fi, kind of some fantasy, like swords and sandals elements. So I think this one's gonna appeal to a lot of people.
Yeah, because if even just like seeing it, you could say, oh, it's like a cool period piece with like a cool like little sci-fi twist to it. That's gonna get like a general audience, and I feel like more be like, oh, cool, yeah, the time period piece compared to someone just saying like, oh, Warcraft, this is like crazy fantasy. I'm not gonna go see that. Does Warcraft appeals to more of a niche crowd?
Yeah, and something that also I was always kind of interested in is the fact that in this it's like, time travel, and Michael Fassbender is this regular guy. His character is this regular guy, and he gets put back in time, and suddenly he's a master assassin, knows how to do all this. That always like weirded me out a little bit. But this trailer seemed to show him doing some sort of training with like that bow and arrow. So that at least explained to me that he trains before going back in time. He's not just suddenly this master assassin. So I think they're taking time with this story and explaining things. Right.
Well, that might just be what they did in the games. The character Desmond, he didn't know how to fight, but that's how he was learning how to fight. Was when he went back in time, he learned vicariously through his, and then he'd train afterwards and like learns or do what he sort of learned from being his ancestors. So that might be just him after he went into the Animus and coming out, or maybe they're doing that route. I don't know.
All right, what's our next trailer?
All right, The Accountant, Ben Affleck stars as an OCD super accountant in the action thriller. The movie opens October 14th. Being the less buff and less smart accountant, Robert, your thoughts?
Well, my major is accounting, and first of all, I can relate heavily to
Okay.
Ben Affleck.
Those traps are a little small, don't you think, for being Ben Affleck?
He's 40. I have time to catch up.
But he's a 45-year-old man is buffer than you. In
He's
the
had
same...
45 more years of the gym than I have. No, but I think the movie looks really cool. It's kind of a weird twist. It seems like his dad pushes him to be this tough guy. Because, I mean, before in the trailer, he was like kind of shy, and the dad tells him, you have to stand up for
Like
yourself.
his dad like drives him to the fight. Yeah.
But then he just beats the crap out of the guy. So, like, he already knows how to fight. His
Well,
dad knew he was going to
he's
kick
super smart. So he has super strategery.
Strategery.
See, what I really liked about this trailer is it didn't have to sell you on the story at all. It's already got this interesting story about this accountant who's overly smart, overly OCD, but he's like a hitman assassin. But it didn't sell you almost any of that. All it sold you was Ben Affleck's character. He didn't even say a single word in the trailer, but this movie's so confident that it's got such a cool and unique character that it just highlights him and doesn't even highlight the story. So that was something that really stood out to me, and one of the reasons I'm really, really looking forward to this movie.
Yeah, it showed enough to get you intrigued, but then it still like left a lot of mystery. So I just hope like the trailers don't eventually give away everything. But yeah,
I don't think
Excited.
they will, but
Like,
not gonna pull a Batman v Superman, just show everything.
part of the mystery was like me and Dean were trying to decide or figure out which side Ben Affleck is on.
yeah, is he
'Cause
working for the cartel? He's going against them? We couldn't figure it
I
out.
personally thought he was working for the cartel.
And I thought he was going against them. So,
But I don't know. It's just kind of hard to tell right now.
which is a good thing, though.
Why
we
not
don't know,
both?
so.
Why
Oh.
not? Double Asian accountant.
Yeah, and I mean, the trailer had almost zero action. It was all just like building who this guy was. So that was impressive. And I'm a big fan of the director, Gavin O'Connor. Directed Miracle, the 2004, or I think 2004 hockey movie about the 80s Olympic team. And he also directed Warrior, which I finally got Doug to watch. That is one of the best sports movies out there.
Big fan of that movie.
What movie is that?
MMA,
It's an
Tom
MMA.
Hardy and his mountain of traps.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the boxing?
Yeah, well, it's MMA, but yeah,
Okay, I
yeah,
didn't
it's
see that
it's
one.
That movie's so great.
It's an MMA movie, but honestly, it's a movie about brothers that MMA happens to be in. Because
And who is the dad?
Nick Nolte.
Blew me away with that performance. Every scene, he was just fantastic. in
It's
it.
just a great movie overall, and that's one of the reasons I'm really excited
Quality
for The
film.
Accountant. All right, and our next trailer.
Our next and last trailer is The Light Between Oceans, another movie starring Mr. Michael Fassbender and his co-star Alicia Vikander. Dean, big fan of this trailer?
I'm a huge fan of this. When the first
Ooh,
trailer came
not
out a
big.
couple months ago, it got me right away. These are two of my favorite actors right now, Michael Fassbender and Alicia Vikander. She was so great in Ex Machina, and then she went out and won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress with The Danish Girl. So I mean, and this movie looks like it has an Oscar written all over it. Fassbender could be up for a nomination, and Vikander looks like she's up for a nomination, if not in the lead, to win it again. This movie looks like it's really gonna pull at your heartstrings. It's gonna be emotional, and it seems like a pretty cool story overall as well. With them finding this baby that washed up on shore, they raise her, and then suddenly they meet what appears to be the real mom who lost her husband and her child at sea. So it seems like it's gonna be a really emotional movie, and both trailers have just hooked me instantly.
Dean, I thought robots didn't have heartstrings. Care to elaborate?
Well, things can change.
Wow,
The Tin Man got
little
on fire.
inside baseball there for you. Yeah, it looks really good. It looks like a film that you could bring a lady friend to, and they'd be a big fan of it as
Good
well.
luck with that, Doug.
Hey now. I mean, and plus, who's not a fan of both of those actors? And they're just the power couple right now of Hollywood. Just some of the best actors and actresses in the business. So,
Wait, so did you like the trailer? I thought you just said
big fan.
Well, Dean, okay.
No, Dean was a huge fan, not even a big fan. So I apparently liked it more.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Just how vocabulary works, Dean. I'm sorry.
The first 30 seconds of the trailer, I didn't like because I thought it was just gonna be like another like romance between
Yeah,
two people.
yeah.
You just didn't like his mustache.
But then when
You
the
mustache hater.
Well, no, that drew me in more.
Oh.
But when like the whole baby situation came in, I'm like, oh, this is a intense situation. What will they do?
Right, yeah.
Wow, way to just get that, yeah.
There's much more to
Good
it than just
breakdown
like
of it.
those generics, like kind of like Nicholas Sparks kind of romance movie. There's a lot more to
Notebook
it.
was great, Dean.
He got one. He got one. But so this is a movie I can't wait to see, and I love that right now we're getting all these summer blockbuster action movies, and then we're also starting to get these the smaller independent kind of Oscar type movie trailers right now. So this is a really just fun time to be watching movies. All right, and that will do it for trailer talk. And moving on to our last segment of the day, simply called Now in Theaters. We're just going to look over the big movie opening up in theaters this week.
Alright, the movie in theaters this week is Money Monster with Mr. George Clooney and Julia Roberts. Dean? Robert? Gonna see it?
I know my mom really wants to see it.
My mom also wants to see it.
Maybe they should go together. But I mean, the movie looks interesting. I'm intrigued to see what happens. So far, I haven't really seen that many great ratings, but I mean, nothing too awful.
Right, and it interests me. I thought the trailer gave away a little bit too much. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's a trick. They're tricking us with that. But I think what really actually gets me interested. I'm not a huge George Clooney fan. You know, he's good in some movies, not great in others. Julia Roberts hasn't been doing much lately. I mean, Mother's Day, from what I heard, was atrocious. So I mean, she should be doing better stuff than that. But actually, what really has me interested is the guy that plays the guy that kind of like takes George Clooney hostage, which is, I believe his name is Jack O'Connell. He's an Unbroken. He was also in the movie 71, which is a really small movie, but if you haven't seen, he's fantastic. And it's like a chase movie.
Who's gonna see that movie, Dean? Come on.
He got trapped behind like enemy lines. It's like based on like a true story, and he just had to kind of just survive on these mean streets where people were just after him. And I think.
Was that another war movie?
Yeah, it's a war movie.
Oh, we didn't explain the premise, Dean. You just made it sound like 71 prostitutes.
It's like an Irish, I believe he's an Irish army man that gets trapped behind enemy lines or stuck there, or in this town at least where they don't like the army, and he's kind of just on the run the whole time, and he's so great in the movie. I think he's one of those stars that's really going to become a bigger name. So the fact that he's in this movie, and it seems like he's going to be the standout because he's got the main role in it, so I'm actually pretty excited to see this movie and curious to see it.
From all the trailers, this movie really, I thought it gave away too much, and I feel like it looks pretty mediocre, but I either have a bunch of gift cards, or if I go see it with our mother, that's just a free movie ticket, so I'll take it, and I'll see it, and I'll judge it then.
Alright, and that will wrap up our first episode of the Neat Movie News Show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please make sure you jump down in the comments and start a conversation about what news stories stuck out to you. Were you a fan of the trailers that came out this week? Anything like that. We're even looking for some constructive criticism as well. Hopefully we'll get the studio going a little bit more. We're hoping to get some movie posters going up in the background as well. Please subscribe to our channel, like the video. You can also follow me on Twitter at NeatMovieNews for all the latest news in the world of movies. And make sure you check out our merch store over at TeePublic. You can find the link in my Twitter.
We shouldn't be advertising t-shirts yet.
Right here, you can go buy those. These two still haven't bought one.
Yeah, I bought the old one, Dean. You changed the name.
Oh yeah, we're going over a little rebranding, but I think this part of our expansion, we got this show going. We got some more stuff, a lot of trailer reactions going up. So hopefully you guys are enjoying everything going on the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to Robert and Doug for joining me today. We will see you hopefully back here next Friday, and we will see you then.
Peace.
Little wink. It's a nice little wink at the end.